Hi, my name is Sheila Corona. Welcome to Sassy Seer Sheila and New Light Streaming Love. This will be seen on both channels. So I had just shut off the recording from Medikey 03, planning to finally rest for the rest of the day. Happened to go on to Facebook, and the very first thing pinged me so hard. It was from Jason, as you can see. And so I had to turn it back on and come right back here. Classified Genetic Resonance Dossier, Archive HC 013 Omega. Status Partial Pre-Disclosure Release by Dr. Alara Voss, Xenogenetic Archivist, / Jason Gray, Transmission Retrieval Specialist, classified. Release date 5/31/2026. So just today. Like I saw that it was just 4 hours ago, which could be what prompted me to go to Facebook in the first place, because I hadn't planned on doing that either. Release location, #Winnipeg, #Manitoba, #Canada. Among the countless anomalies cataloged during the open corridor period, none proved more enduring or more quietly subversive than the population designated the carriers. The term was never meant for public dissemination. It surfaced only in the sealed continuity strata of the final visitor observation logs buried beneath layers of predictive collapse modeling. At surface level, the designation appeared to reference a blood anomaly. In truth, blood was merely the visible signature. The real phenomenon ran far deeper, a deliberate living genetic architecture designed to survive civilizational forgetting. The hybrid origin. The earliest continuity records are unequivocal. The carriers were never purely human. They began as intentional hybrids. During the first contact windows, roughly 18,000 to 12,000 BCE, by current reckoning, certain visitor clades, CLADES, in parentheses, primarily the Lyrian-derived and Syrian-aligned lineages, engaged in limited sanctioned genetic integration programs. And this is very interesting. I've had guidance from a Lyrian self of mine, so that's very interesting. The goal was not conquest or domination, but continuity insurance. Earth was entering a long-predicted instability cycle. Magnetic reversals, crustal displacement events, engineered forgetting protocols by rival factions, and natural entropic collapse of high civilization memory. To preserve core relational knowledge, star navigation harmonics, consciousness resonance protocols, non-local ethics, and the original human role as galactic gardeners, living biological archives were embedded within the species. O-negative carriers represent the primary, least diluted hybrid lines. Their blood lacks the RHD protein entirely. In the visitor archives, this absence is repeatedly described not as a deficiency, but as a clean channel. The RHD antigen, introduced or amplified in later baseline human populations, acts as a form of static. Its absence allows clearer resonance with non-human frequency domains. O-negative hybrids consistently demonstrated elevated theta-gamma coupling during symbolic exposure, spontaneous reactivation of dormant epigenetic memory structures, natural compatibility with visitor communication lattices, geometric, tonal, and oniric, ONEIRIC. Lower rejection rates in cross-species consciousness transfer simulations. These individuals were not, quote, upgraded for superiority. They were precision instruments for memory preservation across deep time. Many early hybrid lines were seeded into isolated high-resonance populations, the pre-Basque peoples, certain Dravidian and Saharan lineages, early steppe pastoralists, and scattered Pacific Islander groups. Over millennia, these lines dispersed globally. Blood type variations and hybrid gradients. The archives classifies carrier potential across the Rh blood group system with surprising granularity. O-negative, in parentheses, primary hybrids. The purest living continuity vectors. Highest statistical occurrence of, quote, awakening events during resonance spikes. Many report lifelong sensations of vague homesickness for places that do not exist on Earth, recurring dreams of impossible geometries, and an instinctive distrust of authoritarian historical narratives. Their blood is described in the records as functioning partially like a quantum key, biologically keyed to specific visitor harmonic signatures. Some archives suggest O negatives can trigger dormant technology or memory lattices when exposed to reactivation frequencies. Other Rh negative types, secondary hybrids. A negative often carry analytical and pattern recognition enhancements, frequently drawn to mathematics, linguistics, cryptography, and ancient symbolic systems, slightly more, quote, grounded than O negatives, but prone to intense moral certainty crises during disclosure events. B negative, stronger intuitive and shamanic resonance, historical overrepresentation among mystics, artists, and healers, better at translating nonlinear visitor concepts into human usable forms, music, myth, movement. A B negative, the rarest and most complex, exhibit dual or fluctuating resonance, sometimes hyper-rational, sometimes deeply mystical. The archives note these as potential, quote, bridge carriers, capable of holding contradictory memory sets without fragmentation. Often experience the strongest pure physical symptoms during major resonance events, pressure in the temporal lobe, auditory tones, spontaneous geometric visions. I'm showing something there. I'm not AB negative or negative at all. I'm B positive, but I've had these geometric visions, and I was just shown that in my mind's eye. All Rh negative types show statistically significant lower rates of certain viral binding efficiencies and higher incidence of, quote, thin veil phenomena, in parentheses, psychic sensitivity, precognition fragments, deja vu clusters. The visitor records treat the entire Rh negative spectrum as a distributed hybrid network rather than isolated anomalies. Rh positive types baseline with latent vectors. The majority of humanity carries the RHD protein. Most are pure baseline Homo sapiens, but a meaningful minority, estimated between 8 to 14% globally, still carry diluted hybrid markers in autosomal or mitochondrial lines. Pardon me. These, quote, latent carriers often manifest subtler traits, persistent feeling of being, quote, watched over or guided, unexplained talents that emerge under crisis, strong attraction to specific ancient sites or star patterns, resistance to certain forms of mass psychological programming. Rh positive carriers. Now, what happened? Okay, bear with me just a moment. I did not save this in my phone. My Facebook went totally black. I saved it, but it was not an email. Bear with me just a moment as I get back there. Sorry, guys. Okay. I'm going to start back with these latent carriers often manifests subtler traits. Persistent, no, I'm going to start back here. Most are pure baseline Homo sapiens, but a meaningful minority, estimated between 8 and 14% globally, still carry diluted hybrid markers in autosomal or mitochondrial lines. These, quote, latent carriers often manifest subtler traits, persistent feeling of being watched over or guided, unexplained talents that emerge under crisis, strong attraction to specific ancient sites or star patterns, resistance to certain forms of mass psychological programming. Rh positive carriers function as secondary relays. Their role becomes critical during full systemic collapse because they are less likely to be targeted or isolated than the more obvious Rh negatives. Some visitor models predicted that during major disclosure waves, many Rh positives would serve as stabilizers, grounding the awakening population and preventing cultural fracture. The archives emphasize all humans remain human. The hybrid elements represent an embedded feature of the species, not a foreign invasion. The distinction is one of function and memory density, not species separation. The visitor's continuing interest. The visitors did not monitor carriers because they were, quote, special in a hierarchical sense. They monitored them because they remained readable. In resonance trials, dream state overlays, and symbolic transfer protocols, carriers across blood types demonstrated dramatically higher signal fidelity. Non-carriers often experienced noise, rejection, or cognitive dissonance. Carriers processed the information as recognition rather than novel input, and this made them natural translation interfaces during the narrowing of the open corridors. The preservation principle. When the corridors close and the great forgetting descends, do not trust machines. Do not trust stone. Do not trust even the stars, for their light lies. Place the memory where it can walk, love, bleed, and endure. Place it in the blood. This principle appears in multiple forms across recovered strata. The carriers were the living insurance policy against total civilizational amnesia. Most lived as ordinary people, ordinary everyday people blending seamlessly into the fabric of human society, cleverly disguised as unremarkable, unsuspecting citizens scattered across every nation, every culture, and era. They held mundane jobs, commuted to work, raised families, paid taxes, watched television, and participated in all the routine rhythms of daily life, appearing no different from anyone else around them. Unbeknownst to them and those around them, the carriers were deeply protected, but not by overt power or wealth, but by the quiet architecture of probability itself. The continuity program had woven invisible safeguards into their bloodlines, improbable survivals, redirected dangers, timely opportunities, and an almost supernatural shielding that ensured these living archives endured across centuries of turbulence, conflict, and forgetting. Signal reacquisition. The disclosure projections are remarkably consistent on one point. When the full resonance events of the 2026 window began, whether through technological revelation, mass sighting convergence, or consciousness field activation, the population will not respond uniformly. Most will experience shock, fear, or denial. Some will experience opportunistic power plays. The carriers, O negative most intensely, followed by other Rh negatives and latent Rh positives, will experience signal reacquisition, not learning, not belief, remembering. Many will feel decades of vague alienation suddenly resolve into crystalline purpose. Dormant structures will light up. Fragmented dreams will coalesce into coherent knowledge. The blood will answer. Some may experience temporary neurological overload. Others will become natural anchors for those around them. A few, particularly AB negatives, may serve as living bridges between human and returning visitor communication systems. Well, that's very interesting right there. I think I know an AB negative that has actually received some internal guidance to that very effect. Archival note: the carriers were never meant to rule. They were never meant to be worshipped. They were never meant to be separated from their species. They were the quiet continuity mechanism, the blood-borne backup drive for a species that was always intended to remember its place among the stars. The most haunting line recovered from the entire dossier remains, quote, "When the signal returns, those who carry it will not learn the truth. They will remember it, and in remembering, they will remind the rest." End of dossier. Oh my God. Continuity protocol active. Memory survives in blood. Jason Gray. That just makes me want to bawl. The artwork that you see for the thumbnail for this video does not do it justice. You absolutely have to get the writing. You can do that by searching via the link in the show more description of this video and the title. Wow, I'm going to tell y'all something. This is huge beyond, mostly because I have some other puzzle pieces that have come to me over the last few days that seem to suggest that we really are nearing some sort of great big event. And it may not look and feel like a lot of people think, but it's actually going to be. There will be no turning back at all on any sort of level. Yeah, I feel that pretty heavily. Wow, I'd love to know what you think of this, either in the comments below or my email is consciousconversationscentral@gmail.com. Like, share the video, subscribe if you feel led to, and until we meet again, be well, my friends.